The gate security light flared to life as Lauren's Mercedes rolled through the iron bars at midnight. I was still in our driveway, key fob in hand, when I saw her headlights vanish into the private enclave. Heart pounding, I hit the lock button and darted around the car, slipping behind the hedge that bordered Nick's development. Through the misted glass of the guardhouse, I caught Lauren's silhouette as she stepped out, smoothing the collar of her blazer. She moved with purpose toward the model home's rooftop office, where recessed lights cut through the darkness in a perfectly framed rectangle. I watched her tap the access code on the keypad, the green LED blinking approval. As the door swung open, she paused, tablet in hand, then disappeared inside. My pulse thundered in my ears. The night air was cool against my skin, but sweat collected at my hairline. I pressed my back against the hedges and peered through the slats. There, two figures leaned over the desk, Nick's tailored jacket brushing Lauren's arm, and her laughter, soft, intimate, drifting from the narrow window. I had to know how long this had been going on. I retrieved my phone and scrolled through our shared calendar, every Wednesday tagged, Design Consult with Nick, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Every entry felt like a lie. I swiped to last week, Site Review, Nick's Gated Community, 7 to 9 p.m. Before that, Final Deck Prep, 8 to 11 p.m. Each one matched her late-night departures and vague excuses. My jaw clenched as I pocketed the phone and backed away from the hedge. Inside, the apartment was dark and quiet. Beatrice padded out of our bedroom, tail flicking when she saw me. I flicked on the kitchen light, water from the kettle rattling in the pot. My hands shook as I poured black coffee into a chipped mug, too early for caffeine, but my nerves demanded it. I leaned on the counter, heart still drumming, and replayed the image of her leaning into Nick in that office. A developer's design consultation had become something else entirely. I opened my laptop and created a new folder on the desktop labeled Launch_Evidence. I dragged the PDF of her boarding pass confirmation she'd left in the printer queue, tabs under her name and Nick's initials, into the folder and right-clicked to encrypt it. One-way flight, first class, April 12th, billed to our corporate card. I exhaled, tasting bitterness beyond the espresso. Scrolling through corporate credit card statements, I filtered for any Wednesday nights and amounts over $50, Velvet Bean Cafe, Ocean View Lounge, the Cerulean Suites Barstool. I compiled each entry into a spreadsheet with columns for date, time, vendor, amount, and her excuse. Each excuse, post-yoga steam, networking event, wellness retreat, now felt thin, transparent lies. I saved the spreadsheet as launch_charges.xlsx and added it to my evidence folder. Beatrice mewed at my feet, an anchor in the whirlpool of my thoughts. I petted her head and whispered, I won't be fooled again. I set up a Wi-Fi camera from our tech stash, front cam, angled to capture the front door, and another, office cam, outside Lauren's home office. I connected both to the network and watched as the live feeds displayed familiar empty rooms. Motion detection was enabled, any after-hours entry would be recorded. The coffee mug was empty, the kettle's hum now a distant drone. I gathered my notes, printed email logs, and GPS screenshots from Google Maps timeline showing her phone pinging at Nick's office at 8:05 p.m. I packed everything into a slim briefcase, encrypted drives, printed sheets, camera feeds, and zipped it shut. Before driving to Richardson and Cole for my 3 p.m. consultation, I sank into my car seat and closed my eyes. I could no longer ignore the signs, the gated entries, the whispered laughter, the silk and sandalwood traces in her blazer. Tonight, I said to Beatrice, I'll gather the rest of the truth. And tomorrow, I'll decide whether our marriage can survive the betrayal behind the gates of Nick's luxury enclave. I lie awake long after Beatrice curls into her basket by the bedroom door, replaying every Wednesday night since early spring like fragments of a film I once watched with eagerness now tinted with betrayal. It began when Sarah first mentioned her design consultations, with Nick at his private office above the model home, an arrangement she described as an exclusive client preview that would help her refine the staging of the luxury properties she sold. I remember the glow on her face the first time she returned, cheeks flushed, eyes bright behind her carefully applied eyeliner. You wouldn't believe the layout possibilities he showed me, she'd said over our takeout salad, tossing her hair and slipping into her blazer with eager hands. I pictured her sipping coffee beside blueprints, her laughter mingling with Nick's casual charm as they sketched kitchen islands and wine cellars. When she found perfume on her scarf that night, cedarwood and sandalwood blending with her usual jasmine vanilla scent, I asked her about it, and she smiled and said it was the studio's new, signature aroma, meant to enhance the creative atmosphere, an explanation that felt both plausible and oddly self-conscious. I nodded, grateful for her enthusiasm, and let the moment pass. The next week, she left at 7, claiming she needed to finish the mood boards for the upcoming spring portfolio, and I drifted off to sleep to the distant hum of her laptop. By the time I checked the shared calendar the next morning, I saw her entry had mysteriously shifted to 7 to 9 p.m., labeled Client Workshop, Advanced Material Choices, rather than the 5 to 7 p.m. slot that should have ended with our customary Wednesday dinner. I dismissed it as a typo, trusting her professionalism. Then came the cafe receipt I found in the pocket of her trench coat that weekend, $42.15 at Velvet Bean Cafe, dated Wednesday at 9:45 p.m. A quick search revealed the cafe's location 2 miles from Nick's gated enclave, not a spot she ever mentioned. When I asked her about it, she laughed, a light and breezy sound I'd always loved, and said David, her client's assistant, had introduced her to artisanal pour-overs after a late meeting. He knows every hidden gem in the neighborhood, she teased, waving the receipt at me. I smiled and accepted her account, imagining David and Sarah huddled over latte art, discussing tile layouts. My heart ached with longing for her surprise. By mid-May, my trust had further frayed. I gleaned from our shared expense app a series of charges labeled Cerulean Suites, Wellness Stay, for equal amounts on 3 consecutive Wednesdays, $125.50 on May 5th, $130.75 on May 12th, and $118 on May 19th. The descriptor Wellness Stay suggested a spa visit, but a web search of Cerulean Suites revealed a boutique hotel without any public yoga or spa facilities. Its website offered private suites and event spaces only. When I cornered Sarah at brunch to ask why she'd gone there, she looked down, fiddled with her fork, and said, Nick's marketing team arranged a tour of their event space for me, wanted to get my design input. They treated me to an overnight so I could imagine the guest experience. I nodded slowly, though a cold knot formed in my gut. Her overnight sounded extravagant, and yet she seemed genuinely contrite, promising to share all the interior sketches she'd drawn. That same week, I discovered a series of Lyft receipts on my phone. Jessica's account was linked to my credit card for carpool credits. The receipts showed pickups at Pure Flow Yoga on Wednesday evenings at 7 p.m., but the drop-offs were at Cerulean Suites between 7:15 and 7:30, rooms in the guest access area, not the lobby. I remembered her telling me that Nick's team offered transportation between the studio and the model site, but hearing her car log those exact times left me with a queasy gut. I printed the Lyft logs and tucked them into my launch_evidence folder, shaking with an anger I couldn't yet name. One night in late May, I returned home early. My client meeting ended ahead of schedule, and decided to surprise Sarah with a homemade dinner. She wasn't in the kitchen or the living room. I found her in our study, earbuds in, her laptop open to a slide deck titled, Q3 Launch Strategy. I saw the login screen, but when I tapped her keyboard, it sprung to life in some other user's profile, David's, with his initials glowing in the corner. By then, I'd noticed the conference room door had been left slightly ajar, so I slipped inside. The desk was clear save for a single sheet of paper, a hand-drawn floor plan of a suite at Cerulean Suites annotated with color swatches and lighting notes. The header read, Client's Private Residence, Confidential. My heart sank. I backed out quietly and went to the pantry, where I rifled for coffee grounds. While the kettle boiled, I replayed every soft goodnight kiss she gave, every shared code she used in her calendar. I thought of the calming tone in which she'd described her sessions with Nick, professional collaboration. She'd said, just business. But in that study, I saw the undercurrent, her passion, her sketches of his private space, the way she'd stepped inside that suite with nothing but her design critiques as cover. The final brushstroke of suspicion arrived one early June morning when I found a navy bomber jacket, his signature pilot's jacket, draped over the back of our living room chair. The uniform insignia on the sleeve matched the one I'd seen on David's shoulders in a promotional photo for Nick's project. I bit my lip, my gaze flitting to the front door. Then I noticed his valet keycard, keyless entry code printed on the back, dangling from the jacket's pocket. I held it up and whispered, can't be just design, can it? Now, as I lie here reeling, each memory, Velvet Bean Cafe, Cerulean Suites receipts, Lyft drops, DJ's initials on her laptop, the bomber jacket, converges into a mosaic of her betrayal. What began as innocent rapport between agent and developer has blurred into secret rendezvous behind locked doors. Beatrice stirs at my feet and meows quietly, urging me to rest, but my mind races. Tomorrow, I will trace every tour, every conference, excursion, every captured keycode to uncover the full extent of her deception. Only then will I decide if our marriage can survive the truths I'm about to face. I wake before dawn, heart still racing from last night's revelations, and slip silently from our shared bed. The apartment is cloaked in darkness save for the faint glow of streetlights filtering through the blinds. Beside me, Beatrice, our tabby, stirs and pads into the hallway, her soft mew a gentle reminder that I'm not completely alone in this. I move to the kitchen, flip on the counter lamp, and set the kettle to boil. Today, I transform my doubts into action. At my laptop on the island, I create a new folder on the desktop called launch_evidence and open it to begin assembling proof of Jessica's betrayal. The first task is securing the most damning piece, the PDF of her boarding pass that she left in the printer queue. I locate Harris_Jessica_AK_flight.pdf, click to download it to the desktop, then immediately encrypt it with a 20-character passphrase. I move the locked file into launch_evidence/priority_proof, the padlock icon a tiny but potent symbol of the hidden truth. Next, I log into our corporate credit card portal and request a bulk export of the last 6 months of statements. CSV files start to download, each row a forgotten coffee, client lunch, or software subscription. I open a new Excel workbook, import the CSV, and apply filters to isolate any Wednesday transactions over $50. Within moments, a pattern emerges. I see charges at Velvet Bean Cafe, $72.80 on May 5th and $95.60 on May 12th, followed by a $68.20 tab at the Ocean View Lounge Bar on May 19th, then $125.50 at the Cerulean Suites Wellness Stay on June 2nd, and $110.40 at Café de España on June 9th. I copy these rows into a sheet titled Launch_Charges, creating columns for date, time, vendor, amount, and Jessica's explanation. Under Jessica's explanation, I transcribe her alibis from our text logs: post-yoga steam, networking event, experimental wellness retreat, studio demo, market research debrief. Each alibi feels thinner than the last. I highlight every suspicious entry in amber, save the workbook into launch_evidence, and lean back, the weight of those numbers settling in my chest. While I brew a fresh pot of espresso, black, no sugar, I open our shared Gmail account and search for AK, David at Client Corp, and Deck. A thread titled Midnight Deck Revisions from David at clientcorp.com at 11:23 p.m. last Wednesday catches my eye. I download the email exchange as a PDF, print it, and place it in a sleeve labeled email_logs. The hushed whir of the printer underscores the gravity of its pages, Jessica's slide annotations in blue, David's suggestions in red. I tuck the document into the evidence folder, stacking it neatly with the encrypted flight confirmation and expense spreadsheet. My phone buzzes with a notification from Google Maps timeline. I tap it open and select May 5th, a blue dot on Pure Flow Yoga at 6:01 p.m., then a jump to Cerulean Suites at 7:15 p.m., and a return ping at Jessica's office at 12:28 a.m. I screenshot the sequence and save it as location_May5.png. I repeat for May 12th and June 2nd, creating location_May12.png and location_June2.png. Each map image is a visual breadcrumb trail, the dot's path tracing her footsteps from studio to suite to workstation. I add them to launch_evidence/location_logs. Even with financial and location data, I need proof of communication. I log into our mobile carrier portal, request a detailed call log, and download the PDF the same way. I search for outgoing calls from Jessica's number to David's direct line after 10 p.m. on Wednesdays. 3 matches appear: May 5th at 12:47 a.m., 8 minutes and 32 seconds, May 12th at 1:02 a.m., 9 minutes and 15 seconds, June 2nd at 12:55 a.m., 7 minutes and 48 seconds. I screenshot those rows, label them call logs, and slip them into the evidence folder. The late-night durations underscore that her conversations with David extended well beyond professional courtesy. Satisfied with the digital dossier, I turn to physical surveillance. From the utility closet I retrieve 2 compact Wi-Fi cameras, front cam and office cam, that resemble smoke detectors. I climb a stool in the living room and affix front cam in the far corner, angled at the front door and windows. A few feet away, I mount officecam outside Jessica's home office door, ensuring any late-night departures will be captured. I plug in both cameras, connect them wirelessly to the network, and label the feeds frontcam and officecam. On my phone, I verify that frontcam shows an empty foyer and officecam a dark hallway. I enable motion detection recordings with time-stamped uploads to a secure cloud folder. If Jessica tries to slip out under cover of darkness, every frame will be documented. A calendar alert pops up, 3 p.m., Richardson and Cole consultation. I feel a surge of relief, legal guidance is within reach. But I still need an independent witness. I call Mrs. Delgado, our neighbor 2 doors down, who once offhandedly remarked on spotting a black sedan idling outside our building at odd hours. She picks up cheerfully. I explain I need a confidential statement about any unusual Wednesday night activity. She agrees to meet at noon. Her forthcoming affidavit will lend civilian credibility to my evidence. Before leaving, I pack my briefcase, a USB drive loaded with encrypted files, printed spreadsheets, PDF emails, location screenshots, call log screenshots, printed affidavit forms, and a notebook with timeline notes. I slip in my phone and keys, then scoop Beatrice into my arms. "Stay safe, buddy," I whisper. Out in the crisp morning air, I lock the door and head for my car. Each step is deliberate, each breath sharp with resolve. Today, I'll secure legal counsel, gather sworn testimony, and confirm every detail. Tonight, I'll confront Jessica with proof she cannot deny. No longer will I dwell in uncertainty. Every piece of this meticulously crafted dossier will guide me to the truth and, whatever comes next, I will be ready. That evening, I waited until after dinner before making my move. The kitchen island was bathed in the warm glow of the pendant light, and the evidence lay before me like a prosecutor's exhibit: the encrypted flight confirmation printout, the launch_charges spreadsheet, call log screenshots, GPS screenshots, the midnight deck revisions email thread, and Mrs. Delgado's affidavit. Each document felt heavier than the last as I stacked them neatly on the counter. I heard Sarah's footsteps in the hallway at 8:15 p.m. and closed my laptop. She entered, carrying her tablet and a cup of herbal tea, an attempt at normalcy, I supposed. Her eyes immediately went to the island. "Mark," she said, voice tentative. "What's all this?" I nodded to the stool across from me. "Please, sit." My tone was even, controlled, but I felt the tension coiling in my chest. She set her tablet aside and eased onto the stool, shifting her legs under her. Beatrice slunk into the room and curled at Sarah's feet, eyes wide. I picked up the boarding pass printout and slid it across. "Explain this." The flight details stared back. Harris, Jessica, Smith, A. Keller, April 12, one-way, corporate account. Sarah's face paled as she recognized her own handwriting. She opened her mouth, but no words came. I tapped the spreadsheet next. "And these?" I pointed to the Cerulean Suites entry, $125.50 on June 2nd, annotated wellness stay. "You said it was a studio workshop. This is a private hotel room." I flipped through the highlighted rows: Velvet Bean Cafe at midnight, Ocean View Lounge Bar, Café de España. Networking events, she'd claimed. Steam room sessions, she'd added. Each vendor was underlined in amber. Sarah's shoulders sagged, tears pooling. She reached for the spreadsheet as though to collect the pages, but I held it back. "Let me finish." I activated my phone and showed her the GPS screenshots: May 5th at 7:15 p.m. in her office, 7:17 p.m. at Cerulean Suites. I swiped to May 12th and June 2nd. "Your phone isn't at the yoga studio," I said quietly. "It's driving into the gated community." Beatrice whined softly and nuzzled Sarah's hand. Sarah looked down and her voice cracked. "I didn't want you to worry." I pulled out the call log screenshots. "Messages require no calls," I said, "but mentorship doesn't need 8-minute whispers at 1 a.m. Jessica's face crumpled as she saw the phone records: 3 calls past midnight, each over 7 minutes, each between her and David's number. She folded forward, voice muffled. "I'm sorry." I slid Mrs. Delgado's affidavit across the counter. "Here," I said. "Mrs. Delgado saw you escorted into Cerulean Suites by a man in a pilot's jacket on 2 consecutive Wednesdays." Her name and signature were crisp on the page. Sarah's sob caught in her throat. Tears streaked her cheeks as she looked up. Mark, it wasn't meant to be. I held up a hand. Please don't. My voice stayed calm but carried finality. I've consulted our attorney. This afternoon, I filed for temporary separation and froze our joint accounts. You have until tomorrow to vacate. Leo stays with me. Sarah's shoulders convulsed as she wept. She rose, clutching her tablet and the affidavit. Please. Love doesn't excuse deception, I said. I stepped back and gestured toward the door. Collect your things and go. Beatrice leapt to my side, tail brushing my leg as though urging me to stay strong. Sarah's bare feet edged toward the hallway, tears falling onto her scarf, cedarwood scent richer now with regret. She paused, glancing at Leo. He met her gaze, eyes patient, unwavering. She knelt to stroke his head. Be good, boy, she whispered. The final click of the front door lock echoed in the silent apartment. I sank onto the stool, evidence spread before me like battle scars. The confrontation was over, the truth had its reckoning. My chest ached, but beneath the ache lay a resolute peace. Betrayal had shattered my world, but I had reclaimed my dignity and paved the way for whatever came next. I stepped onto the courthouse steps clutching the final separation papers, Jessica's signature beside mine severing the life we'd built, and in that moment the weight of resignation and relief pressed equally on my chest. Back at the apartment, the rooms felt both cavernous and cleansed, the boxes labeled, Jessica's things, stood empty where her designs and scarves once lay, and on the mantel I replaced our wedding photo with a single Polaroid of Beatrice gazing calmly at the camera, her paws curled beneath her and her green eyes brimming with unwavering loyalty. In the study, now wholly mine, I installed an oak desk and an ergonomic chair, then opened my laptop to a draft entitled, When Trust Fractures, My Path Forward, outlining chapters on recognizing red flags, documenting evidence, navigating separation, emotional recovery, and rebuilding identity. I poured a fresh cup of black coffee, bitter and grounding, and began typing. Betrayal often arrives in whispers and excuses, but healing demands a louder truth. As I wrote, each word felt like a brick in the foundation of my new life. Later that afternoon, I met with Amelia Grant, a colleague who'd launched a consulting practice, and over sandwiches we sketched a workshop series for professionals grappling with personal and ethical breaches, combining legal guidance, financial planning, and emotional support. Her excitement lit a spark in me. My ordeal could transform into purpose, guiding others through storms I'd weathered. Walking home with Beatrice at my side, I paused by the riverside promenade and inhaled the cool evening air, the city lights dancing on the water like promises of renewal. I knelt to scratch behind her ears and whispered, "Tomorrow, buddy, we begin for real." In the kitchen, I cooked her favorite salmon dish and iced her water bowl, setting a simple plate for one on the dining table. I raised my glass in a silent toast to the empty chair across from me, honoring the past while embracing the blank space of the future. Before bed, I finalized the first blog post and scheduled it to publish at sunrise, titled, When Trust Fractures, A Path Forward, featuring Beatrice's Polaroid as its emblem of steadfastness. I closed my laptop, turned off the lamp, and settled onto the couch where Beatrice curled beside me, her steady purr a lullaby of comfort. As I drifted toward sleep, I realized that betrayal had cleaved my world apart, but from its fragments emerged clarity, resilience, and a purpose that would carry me forward, one honest step at a time.